Here he is, our Tuesday regular from the Province and Post Media, rink-wide contributor as well. On Fridays, the one and only Mr. Patrick Johnston. How you doing?
Gentlemen, it is toasty outside.
Oh,
Here to
gorgeous.
talk hockey.
Well, yes, the Stanley Cup final continues. If you think it's toasty here,
Oh my
try
God.
Vegas or South Florida.
Yeah, exactly.
We've always dreamed of playoff hockey where we could watch on the patios. I mean, apparently that used to be a thing, but
Well, it was definitely a thing in the bubble. I mean, it was August,
yeah,
right?
it was August then. Yes.
You had a really cool tweet last night. It elicited a lot of
Yeah.
response. Jack Eichel winning a Stanley Cup before Connor McDavid will be fill in the blank. What says you, PJ, or what were some of your favorite replies to it?
Well, I mean, I think, I think is I wanted to. I'm sort of going with, could I say too perfect? Because here's a guy. You know, I mean, in the end, we remember the sort of debate in that draft year, right? Like, who's the guy? And I think we would say that the guy remains Connor McDavid, but the guy that's going to win is not Connor McDavid. Well, I mean, yes, there's, as Sharon pointed out to me,
No one's ever blown two.
hold your horses.
Don't you dare! Not in this town, okay?
Because yesterday was it not yesterday's the anniversary of going up 2-0 for the Canucks?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
The
Anyway.
Bruins overtime goal. Yeah.
Yeah, but
It just as an aside here, guys, just because we had Rafi Torres on the show, back in the Christmas time or the spring, I forget when we had Rafi, but to score that late in game one, sudden victory. To score that early in overtime, game two, sudden victory. Like, it's amazing that the Bruins were able to come back from that. Like, two absolute daggers in the first two games.
and I mean, in the end, like, riding their goalie, you know, there's a lot to the story, of course, but more than anything, you know, this was a team that was only in this final because their goalie had completely stonewalled the Tampa Bay Lightning, right? Like, and also the referees' whistles went in their pockets in Game 7, but that was the Eastern Conference
that was
final. Yeah.
1-0. Was it Tyler Seguin, the goal scorer for Boston?
I think so,
Yeah.
Anyway.
We digress.
No, to go to my favorite was I mean, it was amazing how involved the number of people got in the replies. You know, some people had some fun and got what I was doing. And then some people got really, they're like, it's a team game, and I'm like, that's not the point. Like, you're right. But, you know, there's a narrative here. You know, inevitable hockey is a team sport. Yes, thank you. I'm aware. No, I enjoyed the people who cursed. Hilarious, expected. It was mostly that. You know, I expected people to get what I was kind of poking at. And justice, someone said, I guess. I mean, a guy forced his way. I mean, Matthew Tkachuk, same kind of story, right? Guy forced his way away from a team that was at best spinning its wheels. I mean, I'm not sure what Buffalo was doing. Even worse than Edmonton, really, because at least Edmonton's played some playoff games, right? But to me, it's player power, right? That's what it is. That's what the story is, and it's as we've talked about many times here, that this is where things are going. This is what Gary Bettman's afraid of, and it's that player-driven league like you get in the NBA where guys can make stuff happen. I mean, I was talking last night with one of my buddies on my beer league team about Ryan O'Reilly because he's a big Leafs guy, and then another guy on our team is a big, if you can believe it, St. Louis Blues fan. And you know, where is he going to go? What's he going to do? Is he going to go back to St. Louis? Is he? You know, I said, you know what? Here's a guy that can do anything he wants. Maybe he should go back to Colorado. Chase one more cup. Do a 1-year deal. Go back there. Take way less money, just do whatever you can, because he can still probably sign one more multi-year deal that's going to pay him well, and he's been paid well in his life. But yeah, player power. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, and let me correct myself before I'm on easy notes. Nathan Horton, the only goal in Game 7 of the Eastern Final in 2011. He would factor in the Stanley Cup Final too, Blake, if you might remember. Let me ask you today's Bodog poll question in light of the Matthew Tkachuk hit, and we don't see a lot of that, and it was a clean hit, and good for Jack Eichel for acknowledging it was a clean hit in the aftermath. Is there enough hitting in the NHL for your liking?
There are hits that don't happen that I don't understand why they don't. And, I remember bringing this up before, but Luke Schenn, Luke Schenn had figured out how to make hits that didn't take him out of the play. And for whatever reason, that's not a thing. Defending in front of the net, I mean, the NHL has actively gone after cross checks, which I think is the way to go. Mm-hmm. But even before that, the way defensemen are taught to play in front of the net is you don't engage. Like, you don't get distracted. You just be in position to defend the guy. Be in position to take away a pass. Be in position to block shots, because blocking shots is everything now. I'd like to see some more hits. I don't need to see Scott Stevens. I don't even need to see Rafi Torres behind the net. I just need to, let's stand a guy up at the blue line. I get that you can't hit everybody. That's always been true. The star players always elude the hits anyway, but there's enough times. I would like to see some more hits. Yes.
Before we leave McDavid versus Eichel here, guys, who has suffered more, McDavid or Eichel? The guy that can't make the playoffs or the guy that can't get over the hump in the playoffs? Who suffered more as a player here?
That's a good question. I think it's Eichel, because in the end, that's why he forced. There was the next stuff, of course, absolutely, but the fact the team was constantly spinning its wheels. I think if you put yourself in the player's head, they're not. Most players aren't thinking in super elaborate terms. This is what they're not building the roster. They're not playing GM. They're just like, is this team any good?
Being stuck in the mud sucks no matter where you are on the highway, I suppose. But you're further down the highway in the case of McDavid, right?
I think with McDavid, at least he's had the thrill of maybe this is the year, right? Like, they get in, they thought this year, like this season, they thought they had a chance. Last year.
Yeah.
If they hadn't progressed from, say, the disappointments that they have had, and there have been many in the playoffs, if they hadn't, I guess, quote unquote, progressed, you could say, sure. But
which sort of speaks to wind this back to the Canucks, to Elias Pettersson, right? Like, when does Elias Pettersson get to Eichel's level of frustration, right?
Yeah, I laughed a little bit. The JP Barry stuff came out. What was it, Thursday? So a couple days, but I was like, that's something we would talk about, and maybe we will.
We were talking about it earlier in the week, Patrick, as you'll recall. Staring down a Stanley Cup final with two stars who had forced their way out of markets.
Exactly. But and that was actually that there was one person that mentioned that in the replies, at least one person that I saw in the replies to my tweet, saying essentially, this is why Pettersson's going to want to go. Mm-hmm. The thing that still sticks out to me is what Barry the way he framed things. It was sort of a very upbeat, confident, positive way to frame it. But the way he framed it, we'll start talking. He didn't say he expected they'd have a deal by the beginning of the season. Yeah. They said, we'll definitely, we'll get some frameworks and see what they think, and no rush. But that would, to me, there was an element of wait and see there as well.
To answer your question, neither. One makes $12.5 million, Blake. The other makes $10 million. I'm not sure there is any suffering from Jack Eichel or
I said as a player, not as a human.
If I had to,
there's no suffering as a human.
Then I can't even vote for Eichel because of the neck injury. So I would continue to vote none of the above. Patrick, it's not set in stone yet, but it would appear that the cap is only going up $1 million after the commissioner's press conference on Saturday, and of course. Few teams have more to lose with the cap staying just that incremental raise than the Vancouver Canucks. Are they hooped at this stage? Is there any hope you see for an increase of several $1 million between now and the end of the Cup final and league year?
I never thought it would. When they said maybe it'll go up, I was like, oh, that'll be interesting. But I never really thought it was going to go beyond the plan, because the way they established the framework for how it could possibly be triggered to go any bigger was a pretty easy, if you just on some basic simple math, like, you don't need to know that much to do the equation. And And it always seemed like it was going to be a challenging one. And then when you run into, say, you move the Coyotes to a tiny arena. I mean, they're still, I guess, made as much money as they did before, but it's still nothing. You look at all the factors. If there was no clear reason for it to go up, and then the moment that all the chatter from Marty Walsh is that, yeah, we'd love to put it up, but we're not changing escrow. And you're like, well, then what are you talking about?
Yeah, then how's it getting up? Yeah.
What are you gonna? There's no mechanism there that's really going to make any sense. So no, I'm not surprised. I really don't expect it's going to change much.
Do you think the Canucks internally though held out some hope that they would be rescued by a $4 million bump?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got to talk about it. Sure. What happens if the best thing happens? But you gave out all the scenarios.
Was there actual expectation?
I sure hope they didn't plan for it, Blake. You'd be contravening a cardinal rule of managing teams, right?
Waiting for
hope for the best, plan for the worst.
No,
that would not be planning for the worst.
The tell is the forever comments, and apparently Jim Rutherford was at the alumni golf tournament last week and at least said that the plan continues to be to try to clear cap space. I mean, that's been the story since he showed up. No, so I don't think they were over. I don't have any impression they've been overly ambitious in their projections. That they've known where they're at. Now you're right. You look at the way they signed things and the way they structured. Were they thinking, oh, maybe the cap will save us? I mean, like I said, they would be silly not to have gamed these things out, but to expect that the cap was going to go up, I think would have been foolish for them to think.
Speaking of that alumni tournament, I heard Mr. Rutherford had some pretty interesting comments to the group about the retool almost being done and how they're targeting players of all ages, not just 26 and under. And
we were at that tournament last year, weren't we?
2 years ago.
Yeah, we got invited back. Weird.
No, 2 years ago we were at that, and that he felt good about their prospect pool too. So my understanding was a very rosy overview of the Vancouver Canucks to the alumni. From the president of hockey operations. Hey, Podkolzin, we were talking about him yesterday in light of the Cole Caulfield extension.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a top six winger there, Patrick?
I did. I really did. Coming out of last season, I thought, what we had seen down the stretch, I really thought there was. And then he just lost all confidence. Boudreau didn't seem to know what to do with him. Tocchet was trying to figure out what he had. And, I think from their perspective probably is that they look at him and they had to sort of, he's going to be around because why wouldn't he be? He's on a cheap deal. He's still got a year to go, right? Like, and you believe that he will get better because he's young. We'll see. I mean, he should be. All the sort of, everyone I talked to when he was drafted said this is a great pick. Like, this is a kid that can play.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And he knows how to play with size. He wants to play in the tough spaces, and he knows how to win puck battles, and he makes smart plays on the puck. And we've seen these things happen. They just they've been rare. We haven't seen him constantly dominate his shifts. And I don't think the idea, it takes power forwards longer to develop, is really ever been that true. I think they just need the opportunity. They need some confidence. I think that's what it is.
Some do. It brought up Nichushkin yesterday. He's a 10th overall pick, too, who took 5 seasons of middling 20-something results before he finally exploded. I mean, that just could be individual players rather than power forwards.
Yeah, no, that might be it, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, but certainly the path he's taken is it's not like he was rushed into the NHL or anything like that. He was getting playing time in the KHL. He had a very good playoff run before he came. I think they were happy with what he showed when he was down in the AHL this year.
He shouldn't be back there this year, though, right? I mean,
no, if he's back there this year, then things are going the wrong way.
Yeah.
He's a guy that needs to come in and be in the mix and playing a regular shift and not just be, essentially the fourth liner he became.
But you'd think Taka would like this player. I mean,
yes.
I always go back to my conversation with Igor Larionov at a World Juniors, where Larionov is like, this guy is everything. He's smart. He's detail oriented. That sounds like what Rick Tocchet wants. No?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think that's why next year, I mean, obviously it's everything, but especially so because this is a coach that is looking for what he should be able to bring to the table, and if they can't mesh, I don't think he's bad personality. I don't think anything like that. I think he's a decent guy. We talked to him, and he has. I think confidence was in the end a huge issue for him this season. He really got behind the 8 ball, got down on himself. So another season of Sergei Gonchar. Maybe that's the real story, right?
Yeah, and it's disappointing because you would have thought Boudreau would be the coach for him. He had such glowing things to say about him towards the end of that 1 year there, where he had shown progress down the stretch. Patrick, wonderful job. Thank you for this. We'll let you get back to the replies on your tweet from last night, and we'll catch up next Tuesday.
Take care, guys.
Be well.